Thank you.
Okay. I want to introduce Dr. Scott Lancaster. He is actually coming from our university library, correct?
Yes.
He works with resources on research and a lot of different things, but today he's going to be talking about how to utilize the library databases which are online. So for those of you who are starting up your thesis and dissertations and various research projects and labs, this will be very helpful in doing the most efficient way to find the articles we need. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, my name is Scott Lancaster. I used to be called reference librarian. Now we're called research and instruction librarian because the role that what we do has changed so much that we don't sit at a reference desk like we used to and refer people to mostly print material. We interact with people largely through some type of electronic contact, and we're showing them how to use electronic resources for the most part. And I made a library guide specifically for this that I will give you the URL to. It's tamuc.libguides, libguides.com/PCGSA. And I guess I'll email that to you.
We can post that on the website.
It hasn't gone through like a vetting process. I just wrote it, so it's not going to be linked anywhere on the home page.
Oh, cool.
But you can get to it with that URL. And I've got several tabs, but what I want to start with is the last tab, actually, the one that I have for tips, because on this page I put in an image of the library homepage that points out some of the key things that I show people how to use so that you can see what they are. There's easy search at the top, which I think probably won't be too relevant for you because that's something that more beginning level researchers can use. It's a really easy, simple way to search for a broad topic. But what you might want to take note of is the Need Help button, the big button. That's how to contact us. If you click on that, you will find 4 ways to contact the librarian. You can text us. Keep in mind that when you text, the message is limited to a few hundred characters. So, and our reply is also limited to that. So it's only for simple questions that require a simple, short answer. If it's something really complicated, choose the email option for contacting us. And that goes to 4 different librarians, and whichever one of the first, whoever's the first one to get it will answer it. But you can always email us directly if you want to. And my email information is on this page on the right. The other way that you find to contact us is through chat, and that's only monitored 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So if you see that as an option, then and during the day you can pick that and you have real-time communication with us. The other way is a telephone number. There's a phone number. And again, we all have individual phone numbers. The phone number that is on the Need Help page goes to a desk downstairs, and you would be directed to whoever could answer you. But those are the main ways to contact us. And just keep in mind you can contact us individually if you like. Use the email under Need Help if you have a question during the weekend, because we are monitoring that during the weekend, and we try to answer it within a couple of hours at least of when we get the question. Also, the 2 main links to take note of are access to more than 200 database interfaces and access to more than 1 million cataloged items. These are the portals into the main collection of information resources that we have. The databases index journal articles for the most part and give you access to the full text where it's available, and it's increasingly available in more and more options. And the second, access to more than 1 million cataloged items, opens the library catalog, we'll call it the OPAC OPAC, Online Public Access Catalog. It's what used to be a print card catalog that was in little cards in boxes, but it's electronic now. We're going to focus kind of on the databases today, but if you have a question about how to use the catalog, I can show you that too. Also on this page, I have some diagrams that explain what I'm going to talk about later, Boolean searching. It's ways to join keywords together. Usually you'll use and or for your terms. And keep in mind, as you see from the chart, when you use the term and, you make your results smaller, and when you use the term or, you make your results bigger. Or is useful when you're dealing with synonyms or different ways of terming an idea. And then I have another image that shows examples of using these search terms. For instance, if you were interested in looking for articles about the effect of television watching on children, you would put the terms children and television together. On the other hand, if you think that some of the articles might be saying television and some might say television viewing, you can put those terms together, or you might say television or movies if you were just as interested in finding things about watching videotapes or movies. So those are the two main terms. Sometimes you can use the term not. I don't frequently use that. The best example I can think when you use it is if you're looking for articles about Java, the programming language, and you don't want, and you're finding that you're getting a lot of results that about coffee, because that's sometimes used as a synonym for coffee, or maybe about the island of Java. You can say not coffee or not Indonesia, so that you only are getting the things that are about the Java programming language. I don't frequently use not, but it is available to use. So going back to the top, to the kind of the home page of this site, Psychology and Counseling Databases, I have in the top middle box, I've brought together what I think are the main databases that would be useful. You can access these from the library homepage, from that link that says Psychology, or access to more than 200 database interfaces, but you can also access them from this guide, and it makes it a little bit easier. The four main psychology databases that we have are PsycArticles, PsycCritiques, Psychology and Behavioral Sciences Collection, and PsycInfo, and those are all provided by EBSCO. We get databases from a number of different vendors, and EBSCO has a lot of databases that they do. And you can, I've got in this box some of the major differences between the databases. PsycArticles is the most exclusive, and the results will be the smallest because it's only indexing 81 journals. These are journals published by the APA or the Canadian version of the APA and 2 other publishers. So, but everything that it's got is full text, and it goes back to 1985 with full text. So it's a very small, exclusive number of journals if you just want to focus on things that are published by the APA. And then going a little bit broader to the Psychology and Behavioral Sciences Collection, that indexes around 560 full-text journals from 1965. And then going even broader, PsycInfo, it's the most comprehensive of the databases. It indexes over 2,500 journals, but it only has some full-text access. You're going to come up with less than 50% that you're going to have full-text access to. But through interlibrary loan, you're going to be able to get anything. But the coverage actually goes back to 1597, with really extensive coverage going back to 1887. So I mean, there's some coverage in those really early centuries, but if you really want to do deep research into the history of some idea or concept, then you would use PsycInfo. And then the other one, Psych Critiques, is a much smaller database that looks at book reviews for psychology-related things. And then I've also got two other databases that are primarily for psychology or counseling. It's a relatively new one. We have Counseling and Therapy in Video, which I actually have never used, but because of the growing demand for online instruction and support for online classes, we've gotten this database that you can find, I guess, like videotaped instruction and also videotaped sessions of some type of counseling. And then the Mental Measurements Yearbook and Tests in Print, which I guess you're familiar with the print versions of those that we used for many years, and now they're available as a database, as an online resource, which is much easier to use because you don't have to flip back and forth. You can, when it refers to some other thing in the resource, you just click there. You don't have to run and find the other earlier edition or something. Well, I want to go into one of the databases. We'll go into the broadest one first, PsycInfo. And I did a sample search. And I picked something, I don't know if it's kind of relevant to what you might be doing. I picked, but I wanted something that I might get a small number of results, but yet significant results. So I picked eating disorders in men. And I'm going to do the search in other databases just to show you a comparison of what you get in the databases. And you can see in PsycInfo, you get a number of ways. If we were doing a broader search, we could limit our results. If we were just looking, maybe I might use the term eating disorders very broadly, and then go down here and limit my results to population male, or if I wanted a specific age group, or the search terms probably more relevant to you than to me, because I don't have a degree in psychology. But for looking with eating disorders in men, and just leaving every other thing open, I get over 1,500 results. I have a number of ways I can narrow this down if I want to. First of all, I might narrow it down to peer reviewed. It's not as important in this database because, or any of these databases, because the majority of the things you're going to be looking at are peer reviewed. See, I only cut out about 200 with doing that. If you're in another general database and you narrowed to peer reviewed, you would be cutting your results by a lot. But most of the things in any of those 4 databases I showed you are going to be from peer-reviewed journals. I could also limit myself to full text if I wanted. But keep in mind that the more focused your search is, the more specific, the smaller number of results you're going to get. When you do limit yourself to full text, you may be eliminating things that would be useful to you but are somewhere else and are readily accessible to you through interlibrary loan with no charge. And since it's all done electronically, it doesn't matter if it comes from Australia or Europe. They just scan it and send it. It comes as quickly as if it came from Austin or College Station. Just depends on how fast the people at the library respond to a request. So I got 611 results when I limit to full text. I could further narrow down in the left. I could pick a particular publication, and it tells you how many are in that publication. Most of the results for my search are from a journal called International Journal of Eating Disorders. I could limit to just that journal, or I could pick several if I wanted. Or I could limit by subject, major heading, or subject. The difference between subject, major heading, and subject, the major heading is a a term that's put in by EBSCO and their catalogers, and the subject, the one below it, is a term that is put in by the writer. And sometimes they're the same, they're very similar, but sometimes there are differences. Or you could limit by one of these other types of things. But that's how that we would do the search in PsycInfo. And then going to the next one, Psychology and Behavioral Sciences collection. And I didn't find a lot of overlap, so sometimes it's good to do the searches in all of them, or more than one. Eating disorders. And you see we have not as many ways to narrow down our topic in Psychology and Behavioral Sciences collection as we did in the other one. So if you're doing really broad searches and depending on those areas to narrow down your topic, you probably wouldn't want to use this database. So we got 672 results, but we're going to find most of them are peer-reviewed and most of them are full text, because narrowing down to that, we only narrow it down to 641. We only eliminated about 30. So that's the difference. PsycInfo is indexing a lot more, but it's just not giving you access to I think even, you don't have access to even half of the stuff that's in PsycInfo. So if you're beginning in the research, I would start with Psychology and Behavioral Sciences collection. Certainly I would recommend that to an undergraduate. But when you are doing more advanced research, I would turn to PsycInfo, and keep in mind that you're more than likely going to have to use interlibrary loan in some cases to get the material. And then PsycArticles, remember, is the smallest, most focused, that is just indexing those 81 peer-reviewed things. I think that we're going to find that everything that we get is peer-reviewed and full text in this database. We get 44, and if I limit to full text and scholarly peer-reviewed, my results stay at 44. And, well, just to show you, just to go through and do the last one, PsycCritiques, which again is only looking for book reviews. And you can see there are slightly different ways to narrow down. They all four have different ways of limiting your results. I only get 7, and there's no there's no limiting to peer-reviewed or full text, because they're all full text, and I don't think book reviews are really something that fall under the consideration of peer review. But that's the way that you do the search. I do want to point out that you have the option of searching in all those databases at the same time, or even other ones if you want to. In any EBSCO database, if you go to choose databases, a box comes up, and these are all the EBSCO databases that we have. If you're familiar with Academic Search Complete, that's a multidisciplinary database, covers many different areas, and all of the other ones are more discipline specific. You might find some of them are relevant to your search, like Religion and Philosophy collection might be relevant depending on what you're doing, or one of the education databases. But if you want to limit to the psychology databases, they're all 4 here. if you check the boxes for them, then we can actually do the search that we did. And I think, see, it brings in all of those limiting parameters in a separate area, because like I said, they're all different. But if we do that same search across all 4 of them, we come up with over 2,000. But that's basically how to use the psychology databases that we have in the collection. And I've got on the LibGuide, I've got kind of a short description where you see that it goes from the very specific small psych articles and increasingly bigger to PsycInfo, which is the broadest that you would use. Also, if you're not familiar, in the EBSCO databases, you can create a personal account. I don't know if everybody knew about that. When you do a search in EBSCO, notice that it says add to folder, and any of these can be added to the folder. However, when I close this and then come back and do another search, they're gone, because EBSCO doesn't know who I am. It knows from my URL that I'm some random person from A&M Commerce, but it doesn't know who I am specifically, so there's no way to save it in any folder. But if you create a login, you can do that. You go here to sign in, and then if this was the first time, you would create a new account, and then it just asks you to make up a username and make up a password, and they don't have to be related to anything that you would that has to do with your university ID. And in fact, EBSCO retains this, and if you were to move on somewhere else and be at another university, even though you're accessing through their subscription to EBSCO, you could log in with the account, and the things that you had saved there would continue to be there. It's very useful if you're doing long-term or multiple projects. Now, you see it has my name up here. It knows who I am. And also, if I go to folder, whereas before there wasn't anything in the folder, now there are many, these are all things that I've saved over the years, and they continue to be there. They can, I can go back and move them around, or I can even share them with somebody if I wanted to. You could, there's a way to let other people look at specific lists that you make up. When you save something to a folder after you've created multiple folders, when you go back to the search page, when you say add to folder, it asks you which folder. If I hadn't created any folders, it would just put it into my folder. That's the default folder, and you can still throw everything in there if you want to, and then go back and move it around or create new folders or something.
Can you only share with somebody who also has an account, or?
I think so. I think, yeah, you can only share with someone else that would be able to access the, or they might be able to see they wouldn't be able to get the full text of the articles, definitely. But you could email them.
Well, even if they're from the university, but say like Lindsay has an account and wants to share it with me, and I don't have an actual EBSCO account, but I have MyLeo and can sign in.
Yeah, then you would have access to it. You don't have to have a personal account in here. Any other questions?
I always wondered what that my folder.
Yeah, it's
all that
very
because
useful.
it disappeared.
I mean, I've had a lot of people that have spent, I don't know how long, probably several hours, putting things into my folder, not knowing that when they close the thing and they're gone. And you know, it's a really useful tool if you know about it, especially because it's multiple databases. You know, you saw that there's, I don't know how many, 50 or 60 databases. It's not all just from these psychology databases. So it's very useful. But then I have some other databases that are kind of related. They're not specifically about psychology or counseling, but they include that in there under the second box. And then the third box has 4 other databases that I thought might be useful to you as graduate students. I'm not sure of Chronicle of Higher Education because our account, when I read it, it says it's a campus account, so I'm not sure if you can access that off campus even with the proxy. It might be something you can only access here.
That Wiley Online Library, I've just recently found that a lot of those don't have the full text. So basically you just go through and have to do the interlibrary loan.
Right, right. And I have here, over here on how to request an item for interlibrary loan. These are little 3-minute instructional videos that we've made up. And also I made up one on setting up the EBSCOhost personal account that I just showed you about. If you forget or something, you can look at that. Or how to determine peer review. Somebody else made that one, so I put that in there. Then, any questions about the databases?
I have an interlibrary loan question because I use it quite often when I'm doing my lit reviews. However, I'll request it and I'll think, man, that's a perfect article, and then it gets here and it's in another language.
Oh.
Is there anything that?
Well, it should tell you in the record.
Because I tried to look into that, and then I'll be honest, I got frustrated and kind of gave up. But it should say it somewhere.
Yes, yes. Let me see. I don't know a search that would come up with a foreign language.
It didn't happen a lot, but it's happened, maybe 3 or 4 times. I didn't know how I missed it. But it would have the abstract and the title and everything in English, and then the full text would be in like Chinese.
I had that happen, and when I tried to translate it, I mean, it just wouldn't. I had that option, but it wouldn't translate.
Right, that's similar. I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
Well, I know that EBSCO has this language thing in it, but that's only for the the instructions, the things on that identify the parts of the database. It's not for the actual content itself. It's just for it would turn search, create, alert, and clear into Korean or something, but it wouldn't turn everything else on the page. But it should tell. Well, for instance, this is published in Germany, so I might kind of be clued in that I should pay attention to what language is this in. And there should be...
Well, it says right up there at the very top. It says
language English. Yeah,
okay.
There's always going to be an indication of what language that something is in. And you all know about the site thing on the right.
No, we can't.
This is sort of, well, it's a couple of years old, but for any article that's in EBSCO, if you click on the link for site, it will format it into whatever. I mean, multiple styles, and you can then copy and paste that. Make sure if you copy and paste that you keep the source formatting, because you want anything that's in italics, you want to bring it over in italics. Of course, then you're going to have to change it to whatever font. Well, you're going to have to resort everything so it's in alphabetical order, change it to the font that you are using, and put it as hanging indentation. And I would check it too. I mean, I've never found an error in this, but I guess I have sometimes found an error in capitalization, because it sort of varies and changes whether they want every word capitalized or just the proper nouns in the first word. So you might double check that. But I've never seen any other mistake. Any other questions? Then going back to the LibGuide that I made up, the second tab I just want to point out is finding dissertations, because at some point you might also be looking for dissertations that are written about whatever topic that you're interested in. I have link to a video that I made on how to use the main the database that we have that gives you access to dissertations and theses, and that will lay out really in a very simple way how to do that. And the link to the actual databases themselves, which again you can find on the home page, that they're here on the left. The first one is to the main ProQuest dissertations and theses database. The second one, we've got a way to go in where you're automatically just limiting yourself to the A&M system. And other resources for finding dissertations. I'm finding that more and more dissertations are going into open access, and some universities are even pulling out of ProQuest and not putting their dissertations in that. So I don't know how we're not doing it. We're doing both. I mean, we're in the process of trying to have an open access way to access where everybody can access the dissertations, but yet we're still keeping with ProQuest. But as time goes on, there's more and more people that are sort of pulling out of ProQuest, so we're going to have to depend on other ways to find these open access things. And then I just kind of give you other broad information about how you get a dissertation if you want to buy a dissertation. Although, you know, for the most part, things that are from the late 90s to the present are going to be found full text in our database, and you can save the whole thing too. It's not like our electronic books where you have to read it sort of in a streaming type of format. And then I give you some information about copyright, which is becoming increasingly important. And I think it's a thing to impress on graduate students, because you're not only using other people's copyrighted information in your scholarship, but you are creating your own copyrighted scholarship. And I think you need to understand what your rights are, especially like if you are publishing a journal or publishing an article in a journal, that you understand, you know, what it is you sign away when you're signing. More and more universities are putting their faculty's scholarship in an open access repository that's usually kind of run by the library, but consequently finding that sometimes when they in their, I guess, haste and excitement to publish in a specific journal, they've signed away the right to do that. And in some cases, they've even signed away the right to reuse that material in their own future writing. There was a case where a graduate student, had published an article in a peer-reviewed journal, and then her intention was to take that and basically make it into a chapter of her dissertation, but she found that she couldn't do that because she had signed away the rights to republish it when she submitted it to that journal and got accepted. So I think we need to understand what those things are in copyright. And I have another page on EndNote Web. Are you familiar with EndNote Web? I don't have time, I guess, to really show you, but it's a citation manager. I think there's some others like RefWorks that you're familiar with those. There are ways to just keep hundreds, if you want, of citations together, and you can share them with people, or you can.
How long would it take?
For that?
Yeah, to show us.
I can show you briefly, I guess.
We still got time if there's not anything else major. I'm
Okay.
interested in seeing that.
Well, you get to you download, or you create your account in EndNote Web by going into Science Direct, or well, I think we call it Web of Science. So I don't know why that it's offered through Web of Science, but it is, and you see that the link is on the page. The link, so if you just click there, you will be taken here, and you create an account.
Oh, okay.
And then let me sign in. If I can remember.
I'm sorry, I didn't know it was going out to another thing.
I'm not sure what. Well, I can just explain to you
Okay.
what it does. You can, some of the databases work directly with EndNote Web, and let me go. I can show you in an EBSCO search. And so when you, I think they call it export. Oh, I'm gonna get this. Oh wait, I have to sign in again. So if I wanted to put these into EndNote Web, I would add them to the folder. I'm just going to put them into the, I'll put a couple into the My folder, and then I open the My folder, and I can either check all or I'll just check those two. And I do export. And I want a direct export to EndNote Web, and I guess that our system is set up to default to that choice because that's the only one that we interface with. And if I want to remove them out of that EBSCO thing, except then I can check that box. And now here it's going to ask me to sign in with that thing. I don't know why. I'll try one more time.
But that'll keep all your references in one place?
Yes, it's sort of like that, the personal thing in EBSCO, except it's just keeping track of citations.
And the citations will be formatted. Can you tell it?
Well, I don't guess I know my, I mean, I could look it up or something. but
That's okay.
fine.
So,
Yeah,
so
but-
you would do it, and then is that just for you, or is then that something another way you can share? Like, let's say you're working
You
on
can
a
share
project.
that. You can share lists of citations. You can write your own. I mean, like, it doesn't have to be something you necessarily bring in from an EBSCO database. For instance, if one of your instructors gives you a bibliography of stuff, you can put that in there too yourself. You just have to type it in yourself, and then you can tell it what. They have hundreds. They have a lot of different writing styles to use. In fact, they've got, because I guess they've got some journals have their own specific styles, and there's many I never heard of, but you can pick what are your main two. Like I picked MLA and APA, so those are the only choices that come up for me.
However you want it to.
And I can put it, how I want, and I can create a bibliography. And everything is explained on this page. There's getting started, and then there's how to, adding references, editing references, and then Cite While You Write, which I've never actually used. It's a plugin that you download, and you can put it into your Microsoft Word, and then as you're typing something, somehow you like connect to your EndNote Web account and tell it what citation to put in there. I've never used that, but I think if you start with something like this at the beginning of a project, I didn't really know about it until I was almost finished with my dissertation, and I would have had to go back and
Yeah.
retrofit, everything that taken me a few years to do, so I didn't really do it. But I think if you do it from the beginning, it would be very useful.
Cool.
Those are, just remember the URL for this guide. I think you all know how to use the library catalog, right? How to search for books.
Yeah, I mean, we still, let me see.
And how to use electronic books if you find.
We still have 15 minutes if
Okay,
if
well, I
you
can
want
show
to,
you.
because we don't know who all's going to access this and watch it later and such.
Well, I'll just go to the library.
Unless, Lacey, if y'all have any burning questions.
Do y'all have any questions for Dr. Lancaster or? Okay, no, we're good over here. Thanks.
Well, I won't take a lot of time to show you, but from the library homepage, if you go to access to more than 1 million cataloged items, you're first brought to a default simple search, a keyword search, which looks in all the record, the title field, the author field, the notes field, which usually includes the table of contents, or if it's a fiction book, a short summary. So that's a really broad way of looking in for, if you have a term like Shakespeare, you'd come up with books he wrote, books with the word Shakespeare in the title, and books about him, and with the word Shakespeare as a subject. But you can also go to advanced search. And you could limit a number of different ways if you wanted to. You have the choice from the simple search of limiting. The main thing I would say limit to is online resources for your purposes. If you're at home and you want something right now, and I mean, keep in mind that our preference now is to buy books that are electronic because it serves the greatest number of people. So you can limit to online resources, and I look, for instance, for eating disorders. I don't think it corrects you if, like Google does, if you misspell something. So if you get 0 hits for something like eating disorders that you think there's got to be something there, look and see if you've misspelled it. And that's usually the case with me if I'm not getting any hits. If you click on the title of any of these, you get more information about the book. Undergraduates are usually very interested to see how many pages the book has in it. This one, I guess, is 171 pages. But it has the table of contents, which is very useful with an anthology where every chapter is written by a different person. But with these electronic books, there's going to be a box there that links you to the electronic access to the book. Just the same way that we usually buy just one print copy of a book, when we buy an electronic book, over 99% of the time we only buy the rights to one electronic copy. So occasionally, especially if a whole class is trying to look at a book, you might get a message that says this book isn't available, and that means someone else is reading it now. And there's no way to set up for you to be alerted when it's available. Like you can with a print book, you could go to the first floor in the library and put a hold on it, and they'll contact you when it's turned in. You can't do that with this. You just have to keep going back periodically to see if you can get into it. We have a number of different providers of ebooks. The interface is slightly different between them all, but basically they will all present you with a table of contents, either like this or sometimes it's over on the left, and then you can maneuver through the book that way. I've read a book with a Kindle. I've read fiction books, but I've never actually read a book cover to cover, an academic book in this type of thing. I always just find what I want through the table of contents or the index. Most of them will have an index, and I can go into that and look up the specific topic that I'm looking for. And for instance, if I know they talk about affect theory on pages 1 through 16, so I can put I can put page 1 down here and click go, and read that, and then flip to the next page with the arrow button. And like I said, the other providers of ebooks, the interface is going to look slightly different, but generally they'll over on the left there's a table of contents, and then to the right is a big representation of the book. This one just shows you, I mean, it's just downloaded one page at a time. Some of the other ebooks will actually like download the whole thing, and which takes a few minutes in some cases, but then you just scroll up and down from page to page. But with this one, you're only getting one page at a time. Any questions?